Welcome back. Today, we're diving into something deeply fascinating and, honestly, highly specific. We're breaking down a 2021 essay by an author named Zhu Feng titled The Four Logical Reasons Why Human Being Can Reincarnate into Animals. We aren't just skimming standard afterlife theories here. No, we're looking at how this text tries to map out strict, almost mathematical universal laws to explain the totally mystical idea of cross-species reincarnation. So let's unpack exactly how this author claims the cosmic system actually functions.
To kick things off, the author grounds this whole cosmological theory in an old folk saying, "I cannot repay your great kindness. I would like to be one of your cattle or your horse in the next life." It perfectly captures the big theme of the text we're looking at today, the heavy, inescapable weight of cosmic debt. According to the essay, this saying isn't just a polite exaggeration or some quaint metaphor. The author actually posits that it's a literal reflection of how the universe balances its books. We'll navigate this framework through 5 key areas. We've got the reincarnation premise, the law of zero energy, consciousness and dynamic balance, Earth as a transfer station, and we'll wrap up with 4 warnings for humanity. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1 and establish the foundational thesis of this whole document, the reincarnation premise, or human and animal exchange. The author puts this core concept right out there from the start. Human beings can reincarnate into animals, and animals can reincarnate into human beings. To back up the idea that we freely swap forms across lifetimes, the text points to contemporary accounts, think hypnosis cases in the West, historical records, and all sorts of internet testimonies. But the author's main goal isn't really to just lean on spooky anecdotes. Instead, the essay attempts to prove that this cross-species jump is a highly logical, inevitable system, governed by 4 strict laws of heaven. Which brings us to the first of those rules in Section 2, the law of zero energy, basically the cosmic ledger. Notice how the author frames the idea of cosmic justice here. The rule states that the sum of positive and negative energy in the universe must always equal 0. Practically speaking, this means whatever you get is always exactly equal to what you give, period. If you receive something, you absolutely have to pay for it. If you pay for something, you're going to receive it. The author argues that without this strict ledger, well, the universe would just totally lose its sense of justice and fairness. So receiving a favor, a gift, or wealth, that absolutely demands a future repayment to balance those scales right back to 0. So what happens if you die before you can balance your ledger? Well, according to the text, if you can't repay your debts as a human, you reincarnate as an animal to provide physical labor or meat to your creditor. You literally become their peg, dog, cow, or horse. And the author includes a super fascinating, really specific detail here about modern society. Since most folks living in cities don't raise animals, and they don't have direct contact with livestock, a debtor from the city might instead be sent to a massive commercial farm in their next life. There, they provide meat for humanity at large to compensate for all those unpayable worldly debts. Wild, right? Let's look at how this physical transformation actually gets triggered in Section 3, consciousness and dynamic balance, or the laws of heaven. To really get the mechanics of how we shift bodies, we have to look at how the text defines the soul. The author describes life purely as a non-material structure with spirituality, where the ultimate essence is, simply put, consciousness. And the rule here is quite literal. Whatever kind of consciousness you harbor, you will be reincarnated into that exact kind of life. The essay argues that if you just observe people closely, you'll find individuals whose state of consciousness, even their core nature, is practically identical to certain animals. The laws of heaven dictate that if a human possesses an animalistic state of consciousness during their life, they will naturally, inevitably take on that animal's physical form once their current body dies. This brings us to the third law, which the author calls dynamic balance. To explain this, the text uses a macroscopic analogy of the human population. It points out that the ratio of men to women is universally maintained at roughly 51 to 49. Sure, small pockets might fluctuate here and there, but the macro level stays perfectly balanced. And the author applies this exact same concept to all species. In nature, the number of any given species has a strict upper limit. Once that cap is hit, a balancing mechanism kicks in to reduce the numbers. Because of this, the essay argues souls absolutely have to flow continuously between human and animal forms to maintain cosmic equilibrium. If the human population surges, the animal population drops, and vice versa, simply because they're the exact same souls trading places to keep the universal scales balanced. Now let's move on to the fourth and final logical proof in Section 4, Earth as a transfer station, the grand intersection.
This concept paints a wildly diverse, kind of hidden picture of the world right in front of us. The author claims to have observed that Earth acts as this massive transfer station for life at virtually all levels of existence, meaning the people walking around you right now might actually be reincarnated gods, immortals, ghosts, or even tigers and wolves, just currently wearing a human suit. But equally fascinating are the exemptions. The author explicitly lists certain life forms that are left completely out of this cycle. Insects, microorganisms, flowers, and, surprisingly, shrimp are totally exempt from this cosmic human-animal exchange. So hey, at least you don't have to worry about balancing your ledger by coming back as a cocktail shrimp. Having established these 4 logical proofs, we shift to the author's practical application in Section 5, 4 warnings for humanity. If this system is actually real, how exactly should we be living our lives? Well, the text distills this massive cosmic framework down into 4 specific, actionable warnings. They're designed to protect your spiritual ledger and keep you from slipping into the animal kingdom. Step 1. Never owe debts to anyone. And that doesn't just mean cash. We're talking emotional debts, debts to nature, and the author specifically notes it even includes debts to your own parents and children. Everything has to be repaid. Step 2. Constantly examine your own mind. If you find any animal consciousness lurking in there, remove it immediately before it shapes your next form. Step 3. Do not harm domestic or wild animals. Doing so puts you in serious danger of being pulled into their world in the next life. And finally, Step 4. Listen to the teachings of sages and actively steer clear of demons and spirits. As we wrap up this explainer, it's pretty clear that the author's framework challenges us to look at the mundane parts of our lives through a lens of profound cosmic consequence. It asks us to reconsider the real gravity of our daily interactions, the hidden weight of our economic and emotional debts, and even the completely private internal state of our own thoughts. Because think about it. If the universe truly operates as a perfect zero-sum accounting system, absolutely every action carries a hidden cost. We're going to leave you with the source's final, incredibly provocative thought. Divine punishments are slow but sure, like big nets that let nothing slip through them. This quote serves as a stark reminder from the text that in this proposed cosmic system there are literally no loopholes. Every single action, debt, and thought is accounted for, and the consequence is entirely inevitable. It definitely makes you think twice about the favors you accept, doesn't it? Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the mechanics of the universe around you.